So we're going to dive into a few parts of this framework, and this is my Speak to Sell framework that I've built from years of experience in selling. For those of you that don't know, I've been in sales for like 20 years now, selling myself, and then in learning development for 7 years, training other people to sell. And now I coach my own team. So I still have a full-time job while I'm getting all of this up and running. So I coach people to sell every day. And so in the Speak to Sell framework, the first step is very much belief, and that's what we're spending a lot of time on this week. And I added this in because of conversations with a lot of you, whereby you don't even want to learn to sell. You're still in that place where you're like, I couldn't possibly. It's just cringy. It's awful. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to do it. So you've got to have belief first, and that's why Beth's going to do the first session tonight. I'm going to dig into mindset because until we get over that, we can't move through the framework until we've got over that feeling that we shouldn't sell, we can't sell, we don't like it, whatever that is. Then we're going to go through grounding. I'll show you a little bit more on the next slide, and then crafting our message, and then, of course, the actual selling bit. So you are here. So we're going to start here tonight, and you have to get a grip on your mindset and your beliefs around selling. Otherwise, it's really hard to move through and sell with confidence and conviction and be able to show up on camera and do it. It's really difficult. And that's your beliefs in what selling is and what it represents, how you feel about it. You as an expert, are you fully confident to go out as that? We all get those moments of doubt. And then your actual product and service, you've got to really be behind it. And then there's the grounding. So that one we're going to do a lot more of in the full program, which you'll be welcome to join us after this week finishes, because that's quite a meaty one. It takes quite a lot of time to get in the why and the authenticity behind what we're doing and our selling, but we will get a little bit into connection and trust because we've talked long and hard about which bits of the framework can we do this week so that you get something out of your time with us and you've got things you can go and use and get confident to speak up and sell. And then the crafting bit is getting more into the selling process then. It's all about really understanding your customer and the power of listening skills. So we are going to get a little bit into that this week to give you some tools that you can use in your sales calls and even in your reels. It all translates. And then finally, we use all these skills to then sell across all the channels, whether we're selling in a sales call, a one-to-one conversation, whether we're delivering a free training like this, or whether we're turning up on social media and we're doing face to camera reels. All of those feed the trust and connection with our client, but we have to understand and craft our message to do that effectively to bring out the confidence and the conviction. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do little bits of each. So we've picked out the core thing that we can give you that you can take and go and start to make waves in your business. So I'm going to stop selling. I'm going to stop talking and hand you over to Beth, who's going to take you through a session to start to break down those mindset blocks so that we can move through the framework.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amanda. I don't know if it's useful if everyone puts their mics on mute, just so we don't hear any background noise for the recordings. That would be brilliant. And if everyone can use the chat button, you know where the chat is at the bottom. So we'll get a little chat going. I might sort of just get some encouragement from everybody so that one of the big things is we don't feel like we're stepping into this weird world of sales. We love our service and our product, but we feel like when it comes to actually talking about it. So my name's Beth Hammond. I'm a mindset coach. I was a confidence coach for a very, very long time, about 17 years. And I now work with women, empowering them to build their confidence from the inside out. So lovely to see a few of you who have done my course before and are now stepping into this world. And sales is something which we have to do as entrepreneurs. You know, if you're working for somebody else, there is generally a sales team who are responsible for that. And that's their stuff. And then there's also this marketing team, because who didn't know that sales and marketing were completely different entities? And that's a whole world in itself. And then there's somebody who does the accounts. But we are doing, generally speaking, most of, if not all of, those hats at once. The bare bones of it is if you don't have the sales coming in, you don't need the accountant, you don't need the marketer, you don't need anything else, because there is no money coming into the business, which means that you don't actually have a business, you have a glorified hobby, which is just taking a lot of time and makes you feel a bit shit about things, because you've got this great idea that you love, but you're somehow not able to convey that to the very people who could allow you to be able to make that a viable business for yourself. So we might stand here and sort of think, you know, there are some things that are easier to sell. You know, oh, well, if I had that, that would be easier. These are the mindset beliefs that we have about why something is more difficult for somebody than it is for other people. And of course, I'm talking in a general sphere, but undoubtedly, if we all talked about somebody else's business, we could think why it might be easier for them to sell than it is for ours, because ours is more niche, or ours is more different, or ours is more, and we've put those blocks in our way. But those people will have the same beliefs about their own business and think that somebody else's business is more easy to sell. The key is to overcome those mindset blocks, and the only way that you can overcome them is by knowing what they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the sort of, like as Amanda said, you know, obviously this is a massive topic, and Confidence on Camera will go through this in much more depth. But the key things, I think, and again, use the chat button, you know, hearing what you think is really important so I can answer your questions while you've got me live. What do people think of when they think, you know, I'm a salesperson? Because you have to be the salesperson in your own business. What does that evoke for you? I mean, I know some of your businesses and what you do, but, you know, Natalie's a nail technician and teaches people how to become a nail technician. Giza, so Portia happens to be my sister. She's a postdoc nurse. She's been in the medical industry. She's not a salesperson, inverted commas. You know, Jade, Katie, Sue, what are you thinking? What comes to mind when you think about a salesperson? What does that mean to you? Pushy.
Yeah, I always think of pushiness, and I always think in my own in my own little business, I sort of think arrogantly, I sound that people should come to me, not that I should be kind of punting my services out all the time, and that's sort of like they should somehow
Brilliant.
know what it is that I'm offering, and then just want to come to me, you know, which sounds horribly arrogant, but you know,
and wouldn't that be bloody lovely?
I shouldn't be kind of like ramming it down their throats all the time. That's how I think, anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jade. And if we can keep the things in the comments as well, in the chat button, if you click on that, then we've got a little rolling, can you see that? The little speech bubbles at the bottom of the Zoom. And then, but that's exactly right. This is what everybody is saying. Giza, pushy. I'm into marketing and copywriting, but sales is beyond me. And that's really interesting, because so many people see marketing and sales as the same thing, and they're not. So that's really interesting. Salesperson driven by money. Yeah, uncomfortable and pushy. So some of the mindset blocks that we can have, and again, generalizing, but it's kind of money driven. It's target oriented. It's lost the sort of authenticity of the value of the service or product. And it's all about the numbers, it's targets, it's sales meetings. It feels a bit cold, like Katie says. It feels a bit grim. It feels disconnected from actually what you're offering. And that feels discombobulating. It feels aggressive as well, I think. I mean, I've been in sales jobs, and they can feel quite an aggressive territory to be in. You know, you have to achieve certain numbers. And of course, when we've approached our businesses as something that we're really passionate about, that's the last thing we want to feel. We want to feel, like Jade said, you know, that everybody knows that we're great and that they can benefit so much from what we've got to say. So we don't want to sound salesy. We don't want to feel like maybe we don't have the confidence. We know we now need to not feel salesy, but now maybe we don't feel that confident. So if we've overcome the salesy bit, now we just feel a bit like, oh God, I've never done sales before. I don't feel very confident doing that. How do I do that? And who am I to even think that I can do that? Maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll just wait until that moment when I feel that everything is going to be easier, better, more streamlined. more comfortable. That doesn't happen. You might feel like some of the mindset blocks is you're putting out the reels, you're sending out the emails, you're having these discovery calls, and nobody's buying. So it's got to be you, right? It's your fault. It's your problem, or it's your product. And that's also not necessarily the case at all. We can seek to tweak on a lot of those things, but these mindset blocks that we have, that we put onto ourselves, can definitely be rewritten. And like I said, the key is to understand what those things are. And like you say, that in the list of things, it's all very much the same. The fact that sales has a really bad reputation, but the reality is you are the salespeople for your business, because apart from anything, you're the face of your business, and people buy from people. And so if you're not able to sell yourself and your services and your confidence around that, people aren't going to feel like they want to be able to buy from you. So if we think about changing that mindset, it's like, we call it reframing. So it's like you literally put on a different pair of glasses and you think, okay, so I don't want to sound salesy. What about if you flip it on its head and you think that instead of saying salesy, we think customer service. So whatever product you love. So there's a great pizza shop, and they're doing like free pizzas down the end of my road. And I know that all of my friends love pizza. Now I'm going to go up there and I'm going to get a pizza, but I'm not going to tell anyone I know that there's this pizza shop doing free pizzas. Is that really, is that a good thing to do? No, we have to tell people about the fact that there is something that somebody else is going to enjoy, that they are an adult and they have the ability to go, do you know what, I've already eaten tonight, or I don't fancy pizza. They can make that choice. But unless they know it's there, they're not in a position to know about it. So this is a way of thinking, okay, well, if I think about it as being pushy, what about if I think about it as an information exchange? What if I realize that, and I'm assuming that most of you, if not all of you, hopefully, are selling to adults who are spending their own money, have a choice as to how they do that, and it's completely up to them. So we're not pushing somebody into making a decision, we're merely telling them. And of course, Amanda will talk to you about how to tell them in a way that is relevant to their needs. But essentially, before we get to the hows, we need to deal with okay, well, what about if I just choose to see it in a different way? What about if I choose to see it that instead of I'm trying to tell somebody something that they don't want to know, that actually they might want to know. And it's not up to us to decide whether somebody wants to know or not. So sometimes we can kind of elevate our own position in deciding on what somebody is or isn't entitled to know about. That's not our place to do. So if we think about not being salesy, it's good customer service. When you think you might be not be confident enough, that's the imposter syndrome, isn't it? We can cover that, in much more detail. But imposter syndrome, that's when you don't feel confident in your own offering. And that can be easily addressed. You know more than anybody else who is selling what you're selling, because you're selling you and you're selling your product and service that you've designed. And when you're passionate about what you're doing and what those benefits are, then you can do that with conviction. You might feel that nobody's buying from you, so it must be you. If you think about how many times it takes you to see an advert, take a phone call, have a discussion, see that top, see that holiday, see that destination, and for whatever reason, totally unrelated to the person who's on the end of the phone or the end of the email, who you probably haven't even really thought there is somebody there, it's just not been the right time. It's not been your time to do that. It doesn't mean you don't want to go to that place or do that thing or buy that thing or, help yourself. It's just not the right time. And you need to build that know, like, trust with the person that you're buying from. So don't take it so personally. It's not personal. You need to be in touch with your customers way more than once or twice for them to be ready to buy from you. And that's not a reflection on you. And you can think of it a number of times when you have just not taken action because you forget. So we need to remind our potential customers, how many people couldn't find the Zoom link this evening? you know, scattering around trying to find it, because we need reminding, because life's busy and we do other things. So we're not at the forefront of everybody's mind, and that's okay. And so don't take it personally. And waiting until you feel more confident to do it. Confidence comes from action. And having been a confidence coach for many, many years, confidence really does come from action. It's about taking the smallest incremental steps that you almost don't even recognize you're taking. We're not, anyone who's been on my course, I say, till blue in the face, no baby out with the bathwater. We don't move house, change everything, you know, sell the kids. It's not that. It's doing the smallest things in the smallest way that almost feel exciting, and almost not even that exciting because they're so small. But over a period of time, you look back and you think, okay, that's a shift. And that's what we're hoping to do this week, is small little things, not overloading, but incremental differences. And what I would urge you to do is take action. So I want to just tell you about a thing when I went to Currys the other day. I had to get a new laptop, which is like my least favorite thing to do in the world, because it comes with a plug, which I just seem to be inherently allergic to anything with a plug. And I went to Currys and I knew I needed a laptop. And I went to the laptop area and I was like, basically, I am a sitting duck. I've got cash. I'm ready. I need it. And I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So all I needed was somebody to come over and go, what you need is this one, the gold one. And I would have gone, yep, do you know what I do? Because I just need a laptop. Nobody came over at all. And I was a hot buyer. You know, we talk about somebody who is really ready to purchase right now. You don't need to qualify them at all. You don't need to have the chat. You don't need to talk about anything. Nobody came over. So I thought, not what a bad salesperson. I thought that's really bad customer service. And that was my feeling that I had when I went to that shop, is the fact that I didn't receive the customer service. So already in my mind, I wasn't seeing it that this bloke wasn't coming over to sell me something. I wanted to be sold to, because that's why I was there. I was curious, I was interested, and I wanted to buy something. But I didn't know what I needed to buy, so I needed some guidance. And nobody came over. So again, it's the same situation, but it's how you view it. So those mindset blocks are really important for you to go away after this and just think about, okay, well, if I said, actually, I feel like it's a bit pushy or it's a bit money oriented. If you're not in a volunteer role, this is money oriented. It has to be. Because otherwise you'd volunteer your time. So if you're not volunteering your time, it has to pay for something. So it's reframing it. And money's not a bad thing. It's a transaction of energy. That's all it is. So I want you to just have a little think about that, and think about if sales is considered as service instead, and sales is considered about helping people find what they need, not you pushing what you've got on them. Oh, you need a telly. It's like, no, I came in for a laptop. No, but if you had a telly, it's like, no, you're not listening. And as Amanda said, the active listening, we'll talk about that as the week goes on. It's not about persuasion. It's not about hammering something to somebody's, nth degree. It's about knowing when somebody doesn't want to take action. And that's about confident communication. It's about listening. It's about understanding what your customer needs. It's about giving your audience the recognition that they deserve, that they're adults and they can make a decision for themselves. And that's not for you to judge whether that person can or can't, should or shouldn't afford or be able to do that. That's for them to do. And you are purely the information giver. And it's also not about being perfect. And that's the big thing with this week, where it's a safe space, another one of those safe spaces, but where we can all rally round and do stuff which feels a bit uncomfortable, but that's the point, and cheer each other on, and in the Facebook group upload some questions or some thoughts and the activities that we're going to sort of set, because actually by doing those incremental things each day and pushing yourself that little bit, you will find that at the end of the week you'll look back and think, okay, that's a shift that was worth doing, and nobody died of embarrassment as far as I've known anyway. No funeral I've ever been to, they said, well, they died of embarrassment. So we're going to put some questions in the Facebook group, which I hope you're all in and part of. And if you haven't already introduced yourself, then please do. Things like, do you want me to say what those questions are, Amanda? So things like, if you fully believed in your offering, and these will be written down in the Facebook group. Yeah, we'll send that to you, Aisha. If I fully believed in the value of what I offer, and I trusted that the adults can make their own decisions, how would I feel differently about selling? If you weren't second guessing what sales was, what would you be thinking differently? And so if you decided that sales isn't actually about pushing something on somebody that they don't want or chasing a sales target, and actually it's about an information exchange, how might you do or think differently about your product? How might you show up in your posts or your reels or your emails that you're not doing at the moment? And if you're not sure, go back and read them. Because it's really easy, and we just need to go back and go, oh, okay, now I see it with these different glasses on. Maybe I could have put this instead. So maybe I will next time. See what the response is like. Got to practice it, right? So I'd just be interested now if anybody says, so from anybody who's commented before, but if you didn't comment before, does that mindset shift that you had, or mindset block that you had before, can you see how you can chip that away and you can flip it on its head? Give me a yes or a no if there's something that's still like, no, I'm still stuck on that one. It's not, I'm not here for lip service. So this is all about making sure it works for you. So yeah, okay, great. Brilliant. And you can see how in a really short space of time, what is that? 15, 16, 18 minutes, 18 minutes, I think. That even just by me talking, that's without you even talking back, how these mindset shifts can be really eroded really quickly. So thank you so much. We'll make sure that this is in the Facebook group. Please do show up in the Facebook group and give each other the high-fiving and the liking of people, because it takes balls to show up, especially in an audience of people we don't know. So let's give each other some appreciation. I have a question. What about the audience? They get sold to so often that they're resistant to being sold to. Okay, so I would argue that might be a niching element. I mean, Amanda's taking the sales thing here, but I personally, I would think if somebody feels, I used to sell something for somebody and they used to say that this market's saturated. I mean, if you went to a networking group when I first trained as a coach, there were no coaches. They were like, what is a coach? You're a sports trainer. It's like, no, don't make me do that. Now you go to a networking group, everyone's a freaking coach of everything and anything. In fact, there's nobody who isn't a coach. So I think it's, for me, in my experience, it's about recognizing who you're trying to serve. Mm-hmm. And if everybody feels that they're being already sold to by lots of people, the chances are that that niche isn't tight enough. But this is Amanda's gig.
That's a big part of it. And also I would add, myself and Beth are one of thousands of people who teach selling skills and mindset, but you're all here, right? There are 46 now people signed up to do this challenge this week, and that's why I've chosen to work on connection with you this week, because most of you are here because you know either one of us and not showing off, but you like us a little bit. Yeah, you've met us, you've resonated with something we've said, and this is why I'm so passionate about confidence on camera and showing up and letting people see you. I'm really going to dig into that this week, because that is truly how you stand out at the moment. And when we get in, I'll do as much as I can this week, but in the full program, I'll go through my full process. But 99% of you that are here this week, whether you think you have been or not, you've been sold to. But it's a really nice way of doing it, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And it all starts with connection. That's one of the key things. I'm going to make sure that if you take away nothing else this week, you take away that. It's absolutely critical, and it's the start of the whole process. Once you've tackled your mindset, we get into the connection side. It's the most critical, and the trust side of things, because people buy from people at the end of the day. It's the oldest saying in the book. I've been around a long time in sales, still the most relevant, has not changed. So yeah, we will tackle that, because that's what's going to make the difference. Because you're right, there are thousands of people out there selling the same services, but there's only one you. You hear it all the time, but it's like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? I'm going to show you this week.
Yeah. Brilliant. Any other questions before we go? Excellent. I'm pleased you're excited.
And don't worry if you missed the questions when they were read out, because I'm going to put them in a thread in the Facebook group so you can dive in, go and answer them, and yeah, start getting past those mindset blocks and get a grip on that inner shitty committee that causes a lot of trouble.
Inner shitty committee.
We're coming
That's
for
brilliant.
you. That inner shitty committee is going down.
That's cool. Oh,
Mine's got a name. Okay. I call her Rita.
1,200 quid plus we stayed. Oh,
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much. And if there are other mindset blocks that are coming up for you, stick them in the thread on the Facebook group, and we'll take a look at those as well, and see what we can do. But yeah, thank you for being here, everybody. And we'll see you. Well, I won't see you tomorrow because I'm having a curry. I forgot, double booked. Yeah, I've got 22 for curry.
Yeah. just me tomorrow.
So
Thanks, ladies.
But we'll see you tomorrow and the next day and beyond. All right.
I'll see you all tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks. Bye. How did you meet Beth? How did you two connect? Amanda?
We did.
We were online lovers from Liverpool.
I know the relationships move very fast. I had a key to the house last week. Yeah, we met on an online challenge like this, like a boot camp, and then started chatting online. I slid into her DMs, as you do, and it just blossomed from there.
Nice. But that is one thing about, I mean, genuinely, I mean, I know quite a few of you and on here, but for anybody watching this on replay, these kind of connections that you do make or have the opportunity to make are really valuable, because I wouldn't have met Amanda otherwise. And there is always some connection, whether somebody's really confident in doing something or really enjoys doing something else, and you can help each other out. These, especially in these free challenges that are run, and the online courses, are just such a great way of making proper connections outside of this online weirdness that we find ourselves in. So
that's why I put in the email, like, get in the Facebook group, get to know people, because you just never know. I mean, we're collaborating now. I mean,